Welcome to Big Fiction Energy. We're at Chapter 5, Borders.
Big Fiction Energy. Big Fiction Energy.
We already have a theme song, I'm sorry. We're not taking any more unsolicited theme songs.
Not even like a cappella.
Boop, 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 boop. Like
Big
that.
Fiction Energy, Big Fiction Energy. So we're like ding, 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 ding. No, alright. Fair.
I think...
We even stunned Tim to silence. It was so bad.
I think if I can say, as I've listened to these going on, the fiction energy in each episode is really pretty big.
They're getting bigger.
Yeah.
This is the longest chapter so far.
This is the biggest fiction energy so far.
Yes.
Big energy.
This chapter has the biggest fiction energy.
I mean, that's exciting.
I don't care who you are.
Right.
So yeah, well, last time we left, Lani was dressed up as a goblin, a sick goblin, Brutus says.
Goblin.
And that's part of his plan of getting out of the city. Lani is not really sure what's happening, but Brutus seems to have a plan, and he's taking care of her so far.
I don't like his plan so far.
No.
This chapter being called Borders, all Borders bookstores closed.
That's true.
In
Very sad.
2011. The last 400 privately owned were then closed over the next year and a half. So we're here in 2020, right?
That's the year, yes.
Yeah. So Borders have been gone for a while.
Which makes me sad. I loved our local Borders.
Yeah. But, like, how are they going to leave if there's no more Borders?
They're going to cross them.
But there are no borders
but
to
there's
cross.
no borders to cross.
I know ours is now, K Jewelers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yes.
What's
Way
wrong with
more
K
important.
Jewelers?
I go to the local jewelry store.
Also, I don't wear jewelry.
Well, when I need to.
That
Once in
one
a
time we
while.
got engaged.
I buy you a pearl for a necklace every year.
That is true.
Was forget about that. I don't do that
Borders
anymore.
book still around when you went to the jewelry store to get her a ring to marry her?
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you get married? I'm just kidding. I know.
I know. I had to do the math. I was like, wait, what?
Was it really 2011 they closed, or did you make that?
Yeah.
Oh, I
number up?
Googled it before this one started.
Oh.
Just so I had
Yeah.
that. Bam!
That was
Yeah,
good.
no, because I
Big fiction
remember
energy.
they had like the huge clearance sales, and I was pregnant with Lily, so I got the like belly book about my pregnancy because it was like,
I feel like I bought a lot during those clearance sales. Probably.
I feel it's hard not to.
I remember we would go like to the mall like on a date in high school, and they would have the like buy four get the fifth
You just
free.
buy books every time.
And like there was a time where I couldn't decide, and I was in there for like an hour. I remember you had to physically remove me from the store because we were going to be late to the movie we had gone to the mall to see.
Probably some dumb movie anyway.
I mean, I'm sure it was really stupid. Probably one that you picked, but
Baby
Whoa.
Geniuses too.
whoa,
No, nobody wants to see that movie.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you
Someday you
had
have to
pick
tell the
me up.
story of Baby Geniuses too on here.
It made me real upset. Almost as upset as I am when I try to eat better. So I go to McDonald's and I order a 10-piece, and then it comes up as $5 or $4.97. And it's like, well, I might as well eat a 20-piece now because it's...
I like how you said you're trying to eat better, and then you followed up with, and I went to McDonald's.
Well, right. I mean, if you're going to eat, you have to go to McDonald's. I'm pretty certain it's...
I mean, you could, I like how you don't even try to like cover yourself by saying, well, my 8-year-old really wanted to go to McDonald's. And I was trying to be nice to him.
Yeah.
You just want to go to McDonald's?
Yeah.
Every now
Because
and
nobody
then.
would go to Buffalo Wild Wings with you.
Right. No one would. Not even if I paid for it, they wouldn't go with me.
That's true.
You know?
You didn't ask me, I would have gone.
You weren't even
You
here.
weren't even here. You were too busy lying to us about where you were.
That's not true. He's not telling the whole story.
He's omitting the truth. It's just as
You know
bad
who's
as
telling the
lies.
whole story? Big Fiction Energy
Big
is telling the
Fiction
whole
Energy.
story.
They're-
Piece
Yep.
by piece. This chapter
by.
actually marks, once you didn't finish listening to this chapter, marks the 1/4 mark of chapters.
There's only 20 chapters?
Yeah.
Okay.
They tend to get longer.
Can you make more?
I mean,
'Cause this is a story that I don't really want to end.
Aw, thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
I am in the process of writing the sequel. If that...
It's
kind of the same thing.
Could we record that on the Bigger Fiction Energy
Bigger
podcast?
Fiction Energy?
Bigger.
Let us be another book.
Yeah.
We'll keep going.
I don't know if everyone can handle the size of this fiction, you guys.
It's really girthy.
Jeez. I feel like we should get to the chapter before things really go off the rails.
Before we get to it, thank you, Soundtrap, for the sound effects.
Soundtrap is the editing site that we use.
Oh, never mind.
Sirenscape is what we use
that's
for
it,
sound
whatever.
effects and music. If you need that for anything, especially tabletop RPGs, it's great for. Thanks, Sirenscape.
Thank you, Sirenscape.
And Soundtrap's okay, too.
Soundtrap is also really good
Yeah.
for recording and mixing and editing and all that of sounds, which is what we are producing at the moment. Or at least I was. But yeah, this is Chapter 5, Borders. We'll see you back in about 16 minutes. Brutus led Lani by a chain leash attached to a harness around her torso. They were in an even darker part of the lower dregs, an area Lani had never been to before. That was happening a lot lately. You're walking too upright. Slouch more. And breathe heavier, like it's difficult. Brutus sent a string of instructions at Lani as they made their way through the metal-lined hallways. This area was made up of metal supports for the levels above. The duo had gone down a few floors. Lani had lost track of exactly how many. Only the most desperate attempted to make a living down here. No more abodes, no more villages or markets that Lani was used to in the dregs. This area had no charm. It was all industrial sounds, smells, and dangers, such as huge gears that slowly moved for whatever purpose they had. The two pest workers here and there in the darkness, orcs or various primals wearing thick aprons, gloves, and face masks. They were armed with long, huge brushes covered in grease for the workings down here, those seen and unseen.
This isn't exactly easy, you know. You're dragging me along. My legs aren't nearly as long as yours.
When we get to the wall, you need to be in front of me. Be aggressive. Snarl at people. Try to claw them.
I don't have claws.
Lani looked at her hands. Brutus had made the fingers look longer by wrapping thin, painted sheets of metal around the tips, giving her the appearance of claws. They don't know that. Pretend you do. Brutus looked down to look Lani in the eye. You have to sell this. They're probably on the lookout for us, but not an ogroid goblin and a random minotaur bodyguard.
Yeah, you just wanted an excuse to dress like that. I'll do what I have to do.
Brutus smiled at that and continued on his way. He had changed his clothes significantly. Instead of the usual black denim pants and black shirt, he was wearing black leather with armor plates in seemingly random places. The look was completed with a leather mask hanging off part of his face to help him look more intimidating. He carried all of his and Lani's supplies in a large bag slung across his back, and gripped his shock baton tight. The hallway the two were heading down ended abruptly at an apparent dead end. Lani stopped short when she saw what was at the end of the hall. Brutus had to tug on her leash to get her to move again. Lani looked down at her feet.
I'm not afraid of anything.
She thought to herself. She steeled her nerves, which were firing in every and all directions, and looked back up at the things at the end of the hall. The two mongers flanked the wall facing her. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. She had never been frightened at all, but when that monger came into a room to intimidate her, she was terribly uncomfortable and never wanted to relive that experience. But seeing them here, now, in this place, the fear she had suppressed that night tried its best to come rushing back. Lani swallowed hard and took a deep breath, ready and unafraid. Sell it, Brutus whispered through his clenched teeth. His words woke Lani from her daydream, and she shook her head, clearing it. She raised her eyes to the mongers who were still standing at the end of the hall. The walls here were solid metal now, more than girders and gears making up the infrastructure. The mongers continued to look at the two. One may have raised an eyebrow, but the mask made it impossible to tell. These two looked exactly the same as the other, right down to the dark miasma that clung around their feet. Standing here now, Lani knew she was fine, unafraid. Having Brutus right behind her didn't hurt either. Lani looked up and let out a slow breath. She lunged at the mongers, snarling and snapping her jaws. One of the mongers stepped back in surprise. The other laughed a wet leopard snarl, a wholly inhuman sound coming from a humanoid body.
What are these things?
Lani thought. Brutus hauled back on her leash, and the harness kept her from getting to within half a meter of the mongers.
What is your business here, Minotaur?
The monger that had laughed asked. I've been hired to remove this goblin ogre from the city, Brutus responded, pointing his shock baton at Lani.
Why didn't you just kill it?
The other monger asked, resuming his stance. Its ogroidism has advanced too far. It's too tough to kill. I'm going to take it beyond the wall and leave it.
Well, that would only endanger the slums, so who cares? Hell of a job to take on.
It's a little one. Nothing I can't handle. Brutus said with a cocky air he didn't feel. He was glad his mask was covering the sheen of sweat that was covering his face. Even the massive Minotaur was feeling the cloying pull into terror by being around the Mongers. The dark tendrils of energy filled the end of the hall, their dark motes in the air that seemed to emanate from the creatures made breathing difficult. These tactics forced the body of whoever was around the Mongers to enter a panic state. Not able to breathe, the body will initiate a fight or flight response, but the repellent nature of the Mongers often forced any interaction with them to be a short one, as they were intimidating figures. They weren't as tall as Brutus, nor as wide, but had presence that made it obvious they were deadly.
Get it out of here.
The two stepped aside, revealing a door that slid up into the wall. Lani lunged forward again, trying to slash at the Monger to her right, the one that stepped back last time. This time, though, the fiend lashed out himself with a vicious backhand to her head, sending her spinning through the doorway into a small room.
Didn't seem so tough. You should be fine.
The Monger said to Brutus as he passed next. The door closed shut once again as Brutus entered the small room. Dull lights filled the bare metal room with a depressing aura. That could have gone worse, Brutus stated as he knelt down to check on Lani, who was still sprawled on the floor. Are you all right? I didn't expect them to hit you. At least you sold it.
I think I'm okay. It'll probably bruise. Those guys are strong as hell.
Lani rubbed her jaw, but Brutus pushed her hand away. Don't rub the pain off. But yeah, you're lucky he held back. He could have taken your head right off. Lani looked at Brutus with a horrified expression. Even her makeup and muzzle couldn't hide her look of shock. I'm kidding. Brutus smiled at her. For everything else, the Mongers are known to respect the work of bounty hunters. I knew they wouldn't seriously hurt you.
Well, thanks for that.
Lani was cut off as she tried to regain her feet. The room lurched with a sickening drop and then leveled out, but it was clearly moving. The sound was enough to make that obvious. Lani covered her ears and shouted something to Brutus, who just shook his head and looked around. Brutus helped steady Lani and then himself, setting his legs in a wide stance. The sound dropped away as the room, or elevator, as it would be more accurately called, settled into motion. What was that?
We're going down more?
Seems like it. I thought we were at the wall. I did think it was quite underwhelming.
How far down are we going?
The effects of the Mongers hadn't completely worn off, making Lani and Brutus on edge.
Do you think they knew who we are? Are we going to the dungeons?
Just breathe. Brutus said, putting a hand on Lani's shoulder to help calm her. There was no indication that they were arresting us or anything. Even down in the dregs there are rules. We must have not gone down as far as we thought earlier. Lani took a deep breath and coughed out the last of the Monger's motes from her throat and then settled against the wall.
I still have to pretend when we get to the bottom, right?
Yes. Just don't be too aggressive towards any other Mongers.
Oh, you don't have to worry about that.
Lani said, touching the back of her hand to her jaw again.
I do have a question, though.
Shoot.
What is up with this costume? What's Ogroid? If I'm a sick goblin, why am I snarling and attacking things?
Well, first of all, that's 3 questions. But okay, here we go. Ogroidism, or simply turning ogre, is like cancer. It can affect any living thing, but it seems to really hit the Voidborn hard. Brutus stopped to look at Lani, whose face seemed to be tied in a knot. Stop that. You're cracking your makeup. I'll slow down for you. I can't believe they didn't teach you this stuff at school. Okay, so this mostly affects orcs and goblins, but anyone, anything, can turn into an ogre. The body changes. No one is sure why. Well, maybe someone does, but they're not talking. So your body changes. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Depends on the person, I guess. Either way, you change into an ogre, a mindless beast that just wants to destroy and eat. All ogres have some things in common, but it depends on the race of who is changing. All ogres get tough, really tough. Even a goblin can have skin as hard as metal and bones that are nearly impossible to break. They get strong, too, impossibly strong. They turn gray or darker gray, and they lose any semblance of personality. Their teeth get huge, or bigger in the case of orcs, but depending on what the creature is, their features are exaggerated. Goblins get long arms and fingers, capable of slashing rocks to pieces. Orcs get strong enough to smash down a building. Elves are faster than the eye can follow.
Elves?
Yeah, sorry, there aren't elves anymore, just what I was told as a calf. Anyway, it makes you much better at whatever you were already good at. A goblin ogre isn't that big of a deal. They don't get too much bigger, but they're still deadly. I told the Mongers your ogroidism was already advanced far enough that you're too tough to kill by myself. I just hope we don't run into a real one on the road.
Wow.
Lani mused in the corner of the elevator as it continued to rumble on.
I had no idea that was a thing. I mean, I've heard of cancer, but not ogroidism. That's awful. There's no cure?
Other than death? Not that anyone is sharing.
That was a really good idea to pretend I am one. No one would come close to me.
Right, that's the worst part of ogres.
What is?
Lani asked, standing up straighter. It seems that contact with an ogre, like a scratch or especially a bite, will pass on the curse.
So if you're bit by an ogre, you become an ogre?
Seems that way, Brutus said, ending the conversation just as the elevator came to a sudden halt. The elevator door creaked upwards, revealing a sight neither occupant was expecting. The elevator opened to what appeared to be a market of sorts. There were humans, primals, orcs, and goblins milling about. Lani looked down as she stepped out of the elevator. There was dirt under her feet. Real dirt.
This must be where they got it for in Garm.
Lani thought to herself. The dirt was a fine grit of light sediment. It clung greedily to her rags and boots. Above, the sun shone bright and high in the sky. Lani took a deep breath and felt like she was breathing air she never had before. She waited and looked at the sky above. She knew it was the same sky she saw from inside Ghal, but being beyond the wall, it seemed different. She took a few tentative steps out of the elevator before Brutus nudged her with his baton. "Sell it," he whispered through clenched teeth. Only then did Lani realize they were being stared at by virtually everyone in the vicinity. She closed her eyes for half a second and gritted her teeth. She snarled at Brutus and lunged towards the closest people, a small family of bandits, raccoon primals. The people shrieked and shied back from the assumed monster.
Ogre!
One of the black masked primals called.
Kill it!
Someone else shouted. That cry was followed up by many shouts of encouragement and affirmation. "It's too far gone," Brutus announced, the ogre straining on the leash. "I need to take it to the wilds. Can anyone help? I'll take full responsibility for the ogre." The people about seemed to calm after that. Brutus had a way of instilling people with confidence. Didn't hurt he was a hulking minotaur, at least 3 times the size of the ogre. Lani used this pause to look around more. The dirt under their feet seemed to go on forever. The ground was a light clay, fine in grit but firm underneath. The market they found themselves in was a collection of rough shanties clearly cobbled together from scrap metals. Lani saw beyond the small stalls that served as shops. There were many more buildings that hugged closer to the towering walls of Ghal. Lani noticed for the first time the massive structure they had exited. She was so amazed at the sights in front of her that she didn't think to turn around and see where they came from. Ghal stretched upwards and out in all directions as far as she could see. There was no top of it visible, no matter how far back she craned her neck. The walls continued up into the sky, past the clouds above. They filled her vision in all directions, no end in sight. The sun currently shone onto the walls, but in a few hours the city would block all light, bringing night early to these slums. The immensity of it all was astounding. Lani always knew Ghal was a large city, but she never dreamed of something on this magnitude. She guessed she would see over a kilometer to the north, and about half of that to the south, and the walls continued on, unbroken, unchanging. Again, she always knew she was privileged to live above the dregs, but she had no idea how high up she had always been. She took a step back from the city, the enormity of it beginning to overwhelm her. Brutus elbowed her, and she snarled at him, suddenly remembering her character. "People are watching. Don't forget you're an ogre, not a shocked little girl. This is amazing, I agree, but we can talk about it later." Lani looked up at him and growled louder as if to say, "This better?" Brutus hauled on her leash and led her away from the walls. Lani was glad to be moving away from them. She never wanted to go back inside anyway. "Let's make our way to the area between the few buildings. We'll figure out what to do without people watching." Heads turned and followed them across the market, but no one was moving towards the terrifying ogre. They ducked back between 2 of the low shanties, and Lani immediately ripped off her muzzle and took a deep breath of the clean air.
So much better.
She exclaimed, a little too loudly for Brutus as he clamped his huge hand over her face and shushed her. "Shh! People are still nearby. We need a plan before you start yelling."
Right, sorry. What's next? That's what I've been dying to know.
A voice startled both Lani and Brutus from the far end of the alley. The duo turned to see a young woman standing confidently at the mouth of the alley, her hands on her hips, showing off a longsword hanging from her waist. The sun shone behind the figure, rendering her features nothing but a black silhouette.
Who are you? And why are you disguised as an ogre? Who are you, and why are you following us? No.
The girl stepped forward, thrusting out a pointed finger.
You're not from round here. You answer the questions. You're in no position to ask me anything. I can have the mongers here in moments, and then you'll be back to whatever you're running from.
Lani and Brutus looked at each other for a moment before Brutus stepped forward, dropping the leash. "All right, clearly you're good at reading people." The girl nodded. "We're trying to get out of Ghal and make our way to Dran. Any way you can help us would be greatly appreciated." The girl stepped up to Brutus, allowing herself to be seen without the glare of the sun behind her. She's a little taller than Lani, which didn't take much, but was clearly around the same age, probably a year or two older. She had dark skin, crazy kinked hair that flew out in all directions, and Lani noticed a beautiful face. She was slender, but obviously not a weakling. She wore studded leathers that went perfectly well with her sword, and a small round shield was slung over her back. Brutus noticed that the leather was well worn, and the hilt of the sword looked like it had seen much use. This girl is experienced, Brutus thought, and nodded his approval.
Drawn, huh?
She asked, looking up at Brutus and then to Lani. The girl locked eyes with Lani for a moment, and Lani wasn't quite sure what to make of the look she saw. She didn't have time to decide before the girl blinked and turned back to Brutus.
Just so happens my da is leading a caravan to Frank, not too far from Drawn. You two could be mercenaries looking for work. He'd pay you to keep the van safe. Safe from what? Geez, you really aren't from around here.
The girl rolled her eyes and ran a hand through her unkempt hair.
Safe from whatever may be on the road. Bandits, ruffians, rotters, hopefully no real ogres. Those all sound like the same thing, besides the ogres. Lots to teach you, huh? Bandits are just people trying to survive in the wilds. No good, but not much to overcome if they attack. Can get lucky, though. Ruffians are a bit worse. They tend to be more organized and have a strong leader. Group we could run into call themselves flesh renders. Doesn't make sense, but they don't care. Rotters or marauders, on the other hand, are the worst things sides ogres out here. Marauding robots that gone crazy. Pretty rare, but still you two all right?
The girl interrupted herself as the two newcomers looked at her with their mouths agape. Neither had expected half of what she was saying.
Well, either way is fine with me. Though this guy...
The girl reached up slightly to rap her knuckles on Brutus's chest.
Looks like he'd do well in a fight. When you close your mouths and make up your minds, come find me. East end of town. The name's Cass.
So yeah, we met a new major character. Found out
yeah.
some big deals, too, with kind of world building stuff with ogres.
Yeah.
Saw some more mongers.
More mongers.
Love those guys.
Can't have enough.
Love to hate those guys.
True.
They seem like they do their job.
I mean,
Right.
yeah.
They keep the peace. This seems like a peaceful place.
And like at the end of the day, they're just going back to their monger families, monger babies.
Yeah.
Those little dust motes turn into new little baby mongers.
Oh,
No, that's
I
not
imagine
really
it
what
being very
happens.
cute. I mean, I know it's not, but that would be really adorable.
Oh, they would not be
Just
cute.
like meow. I imagine that's the sound that they would
You
make.
just think they look like baby Yoda, but gray.
Kind of a little bit with like the spiky things off.
What if Baby Yoda got ogreism?
Ooh.
That'd be
terrifying.
Yeah.
An ogre with, like, force powers?
Dang. So
No,
tell
thanks.
us a little bit about this like ogre thing.
So, yeah, so ogre is one of my favorite things when I was developing stuff for this, because I wanted to include a lot of classic fantasy stuff, but change it a bit. So the idea that ogres were created as, like, a cancer in a way. Like, it could happen to anybody at any time, but it's also transferred to, like, zombies. Like, if you get bit by an ogre, you're gonna become an ogre. It just might take a while depending on where you got bit, what type of creature you are to begin with. Like, a little goblin gets bit by an ogre, they're gonna be an ogre within a couple days at most. But, like, if...
Like what if Brutus got bitten?
I was gonna use that as an example. Brutus, being a large minotaur, would probably take weeks or more.
So it's really based on body mass, kind of.
Part of it, your constitution, How
Gotcha.
many fortitude saves can you pass?
Right.
And like, does it matter at all? Like if Brutus got bitten by a goblin ogre,
Ooh.
does it matter like the size of the thing that bit you, or is
I
it
don't think
just like
so.
a concentration in like their saliva?
Well,
or
the
whatever?
void spawn are just more susceptible to it anyway. The ogres, or orcs and goblins. Just because, like, the whole ogreism spawns from the void anyway. So, those creatures that are essentially demons are they're gonna turn more easily. And it's more common. Like, the most common ogres come from goblins.
Just to clarify, though. So if a minotaur with ogreism bites another minotaur without it,
Yeah.
does he turn into an ogre as fast as if he was bitten by a goblin with ogreism?
Sure. I'm gonna go with yes.
I don't like that.
You think it should be faster in that case?
I don't know what it should be. I didn't like that.
You guys are throwing too many tough questions at me.
Well, you know.
But I'm gonna give answers.
Yeah.
You gotta think about it, yeah.
They're always gonna be, I don't know. Because in my world, I can say whatever I want.
Well,
have it
I
be
feel like the authors that
truth.
don't answer it have very small fiction energy.
Ooh,
Right.
This is, has a lot of big fiction energy. So,
But yeah, ogres are one of my favorite parts of it just because it's another source of that fear. Like, it could happen to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime. You could wake up and, like, part of your skin has turned gray. Someone's going to call it in. Monger's going to come take you away.
are there mosquitoes in this world?
Sure.
Can they transfer ogerism?
No.
Oh my god, can you imagine
All right.
an ogroid mosquito?
That's terrifying.
Crashes through the window.
It doesn't just...
Someone threw a baseball.
It doesn't splat on the windshield. It just goes right through it.
Yeah.
Like the logs in Final Destination.
Oh god.
Oh, that's
I know you love that
terrifying.
scene.
You had logs?
You had logs? Besides ogerism, I think is a big deal to discuss in this chapter. I think the introduction of Cass is even bigger deal.
Yep.
So kind of a little spoilery. She is a main character going forward. She joins the main characters.
The party.
Yeah.
It's the party.
And
She's
the
a
other
what?
girl, Isabel, right? The other main character.
Oh yeah, the one that got cut.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
she's got a vendetta now that she's got a cut face.
Right.
You know.
Now she's gonna pick up that monger mask.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I did.
Ooh.
It's
And
funny.
a little bit of ogerism.
Ogreism.
Can't say it. I'm sorry.
You could just say turning ogre or something
Yeah.
like that. I do like how you said she joins the party because I did want to write it kind of like a traditional like JRPG.
Yeah.
Where like as you go through the story, more people join in.
Cass has joined the party.
She has joined the party. She would be probably a ranger if she was like a D&D class.
Does she have good stuff in her inventory that I can take for my own character?
Oh,
What, are you
that
gonna
is
kill
a
her and then
great
loot the
question.
body?
No, just never level her up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, she definitely has better equipment than Lani or Brutus because she had a buckler and leather armor. I think she had studded leather armor and
Yeah.
a longsword.
And her goblin costume's probably a lot better too.
I mean, Lani, she's trying to get rid of that.
Also, big
Sure
props
will.
to Lani for not compuncturing
I knew you were going to say something like that for not
that,
just stabbing
that
her.
monger. Yeah, that slapped her
Oh,
around.
when she got hit,
Yeah.
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 She wasn't really expecting that because Brutus was like, you got to sell it. Like, you're a sick goblin, you're going to be aggressive. And then she did it, and then the monger was just like, wham! And that was unpleasant for her. Because they're strong.
So, and when the mongers are talking to Brutus too about like, well, why haven't you just killed it? Is that kind of the standard issue? You find something that has ogeridosis and you just take it out right there. If you
Typically,
can, before
the
you-
sooner that you can dispatch it, the better.
Because they get really tough, right?
Yeah, no matter what race it is that becomes an ogre, the first thing that changes is they turn gray and they get really physically tough and difficult to kill. Like they can survive horrendous wounds that would kill other things.
Yeah.
I think it describes, never mind. I can't remember exactly how it was worded. I have it in front of me, but I'd have to flip through a bunch of papers. But yeah, they get tough and they are very difficult to kill. So Brutus, his kind of cover was, well, I gotta get. I'm in charge of getting this out of the city, keeping other people safe because I'm a huge, tough Minotaur bounty hunter. Once I get it out, I'll lead it away from the city and just leave it in the woods and hope it doesn't kill too many other people, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe a bigger ogre will come along and eat it or something.
It's a
Because even though it's
circle
an
of life.
ogre, it's not going to get that much bigger as a goblin.
Right.
Like, they'll get bigger, but not huge.
So its girth will stay relatively similar. Speaking of, this is the girthiest chapter so far.
Yep. 'Tis. So far. Others will have
Girthier.
more girth.
Okay.
We'll be surprised by the girth as we continue on.
Sure. I'm not sure what's happening right now. The way they look at me when they say girth makes me a little uncomfortable.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, I am excited for hearing reactions to the relationships that are built within the party at this point, introducing Cass, having somebody else for Lani to play off of, essentially, other than just Brutus. Because we know how they interact at this point. You know, that we know that they have a nice, friendly relationship. Brutus is like a mentor, but it's kind of like mentor on his way, not on his way out. He's not like super old or anything. What am I trying to say?
Well, like it's really a coming of age story that you're telling, and Lani's kind of reaching that point where she doesn't need the mentor anymore. Like, Brutus has done his job. He's becoming more like a peer and not so much like something to aspire towards.
That's what I was trying to say, but you said it way better.
Yeah, you know.
But yeah,
Books and stuff.
we've seen so far that Lani can certainly be a bit immature. She's super headstrong, very aggressive.
And I mean, that I think goes with her just age and naivete.
Naivete.
Ugh, I hate that word. It sounds so
Naivety,
pretentious.
'cause, yeah.
Naivety with
Yeah.
the tanto.
Yeah.
Naivety in the teeth. Knife in the teeth.
Knife in the teeth.
Yeah.
Sure.
Naivete.
Yeah.
Naivete.
And the cool thing about kind of how this chapter ends, too, is you can, like, see the door to the rest of the world, like, right over there. Like, it's about to open up in a girthy way.
You feel like you really
Stretch.
tried to fit that
yeah.
one in.
They're going.
Hey! Yeah.
Talking about the world opening up, I wanted to talk a little bit about the revelation of where they came from. They didn't realize. Where they're like going down this elevator and they're like, wow, we're still going down? Like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Well, like, Brutus was half expecting to come out underground at that point because they thought the dregs was like the level below, and then if you just walked to the edge of the dregs, you'd be at the door, some kind of gate to the rest of the world. They didn't realize that they were actually hundreds of feet up, and there was just so much more below them they never knew about.
And especially like your description of like the dregs and stuff, it seems like seedy underground.
That should be the
kind of
bottom.
thing. Yeah. So it should be the bottom, or
They
even
can't
like
get worse than this,
subterranean.
let alone several hundred feet worse.
Yeah.
Right? And then they
So-
come out and it's totally like there's dirt on the ground, there are trees.
Yeah.
And he's never seen trees before.
It's crazy.
Which is something we'll see in the next chapter, actually. But yeah, things that she's never experienced. Like, she's seen wood. She talked about how, like, in Garum, there were buildings made out of wood and things. And, like, that was kind of new, but she'd seen it before. But now
Yeah.
it's like, this is where it came from. This is crazy.
So, like, up where they were before, above the dregs, as we've established, bodes are really rare. But as we've gotten further down where there's more trees, bodes could be really a regular occurrence.
You could find them
I mean,
almost anywhere with water.
I feel like you told us that there weren't going to be any more bodes, but, like, I don't know. I'm hopeful now.
Did I say that on... I almost said on camera.
Great question. I don't know.
It might have been between... I can't remember if that was between. I said there were no more bodes in this story.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
But there might be now?
No more bodes. I mean, there weren't any bodes to begin with,
No more
but...
boats. That doesn't bode well for our heroes.
Yeah.
That was good.
I want to talk about Cass for a minute because
Yes.
fun fact, after doing this episode, for days afterwards, I had like a malingering Midwestern accent.
Malingering?
Malingering.
Is it like lingering, but it's also malignant? Did you like spread it to other people at the same time?
It was highly contagious.
Sounds like a Tim word, malingering.
Malingery.
The best part is whether you are bitten by a minotaur or a goblin, the malingering spreads at an even rate.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
But you have
So
to
the
let
accent
it
you're using
malinger.
for Cass, you had in certain words for a couple days.
Yeah. I remember specifically asking you to, hand me those, and you were like,
Those.
I asked you to take those cans downstairs, and you were like, what? And I was like, those cans, and you're
What
like,
cans?
what cans? And I was like, and I specifically remember sticking up one specific finger in your direction. Not
It was
to
a
point
thumb.
at the
She gave me a
cans.
thumb.
Yeah, she was like, great job for getting those cans.
Thanks
Oh,
for taking
yeah.
those cans.
Great job. Thanks so much.
Which is funny because, living in upstate New York. But if you go just a little bit northwest, the Rochester area, people talk almost like the Midwest, and it's
Yeah.
like, what? Like they call soda pop
Yeah.
and everything? Like,
Well, they're
just
close to the
backwards.
Great Lakes, so they have everyone pretty much owns a boat.
The accent just carries over the water, right?
Yeah.
From Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Isn't it Minnesota?
Well, both of them, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I've actually never been out there.
Which is weird because
No,
I
no, it's
didn't
not
realize
totally
there was
true.
just a regular soda and then a mini
Right.
soda.
Well, they're a lot more health conscious there. They
Yeah.
don't want you to drink or
Yeah.
eat.
Is
Yeah,
mini
right,
soda
like
different than a
soda.
diet soda?
No, it's just
just
a
smaller.
smaller soda. It has
wanna-
less girth.
Jeez. I do want to try the new. Apparently, there's new Mountain Dew with like zero.
Yeah.
That's different than Diet Mountain Dew.
Correct. It tastes more like regular Mountain Dew.
I'm interested
Because
in that.
Diet Mountain Dew, I actually really like Diet sodas.
I don't mind
Diet
Diet
Mountain
Mountain
Dew
Dew.
is one of the worst liquids on this planet.
See, I used to hate it, and then I liked it for a while, and then I hated it again, and now I don't mind it.
Yeah.
It's still not good,
No.
but I'll get one once in a while.
I've
the
seen
game
I've
store.
seen a lot about it though, and apparently, it's pretty okay.
I do want to try one at some point.
A lot better than Diet Mountain Dew is usually the thing that is said.
Which is not really setting the bar too high.
Well,
Right.
I mean,
But when you're talking about soda without sugar,
And zero calories.
usually just means it tastes like trash.
chemicals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just straight up garbage in your mouth. Remember one time I tried a diet like cherry
Ugh.
Pepsi or something, and I was like, no, I think it was like
Oh, wait.
cherry Coke Zero. And
Yeah.
it was awful. It was so bad. I don't think I finished it. I think I dumped half of it out. I couldn't get anybody else in the store to drink it. Like at the local game store, people around like, you want this? I took one drink of it, I'm done. And then nobody wanted it. I dumped it.
Diet Dr. Pepper though
But Dr. Pepper is just awful to
is
begin with.
whoa wow
I knew that was going to get
wow
started. I knew
okay
it. Oh, Tim just left.
reevaluating my friendships.
Wow.
This is rough.
We need him.
I'm just kidding.
Diet Dr. Pepper. Well, okay. Let's put it this way then. If you don't like regular Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper is one of the closest tasting beverages to the undiet version of itself.
I feel like it's 2020. This shouldn't be that much of a problem anymore. Just make it taste like it. Like, you can get seltzers that taste like, you know, whatever.
Shy watermelon. Hint of raspberry.
Yeah, like it
It
actually,
was
but it actually
transported
tastes
on
like
a truck
raspberry.
with
It doesn't
kiwis.
taste like
Yeah.
raspberry flavoring.
Yeah.
You know, it tastes like raspberry. Snozberries taste like snozberries. But you can't get diet soda to taste like the regular stuff.
Yeah, and I've never had a good diet snozberry soda.
Never.
That one is just the worst.
Can't maintain the flavor.
Worst.
The worst.
The worst. So, what do I usually say here? Full disclosure. I say to my students sometimes when it's like, I didn't do this thing, so we're not going to do it today.
Right on.
I just did that last week. We were reading the Beak of the Finch throughout a class, and I was like, full disclosure, I forgot to read the chapter this week for discussion, so we'll just do it next week when I remember to do it.
Way to set that example.
It's my seniors. Most of them didn't do it anyway. Give them some more time. I
And now
think they
you relate to
appreciate
them
the
better.
honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And life happens. Like, whatever.
Right? I get senioritis too sometimes.
Facts.
But full disclosure, I can't remember if I did it for this episode or not yet. But if you'd like to get any kind of more interaction with the Big Fiction Energy, check out dancoleauthor.com. The blog every other Thursday, the opposite Thursdays that the podcast comes out every other Thursday.
So important to state. There's something new every Thursday.
Every Thursday is either podcast or blog. It's also on Facebook. Look for Dan Cole Author. Or on Twitter, IceDan_HDH. ICEDAN_HDH. Check us out in those places. I'm going to be having, so I let people know when the podcast launches on Thursdays. I'm also going to be including some more like interactive stuff like polls, questions. Let's see, listeners can tell us what they think about things or what they think is going to happen, make some predictions, stuff like that.
Tell us about anything you want.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And what do you want to hear more about from us? Like in these intros and outros. What do you want to know about? What do you want us to talk about?
Yeah, we could use some focusing during these times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eh. A little bit.
Like what makes a monger become an ex-monger?
Right.
Like,
That's something to
do
think
they
about.
have good benefit plans when they become an ex-monger?
Right.
Is there a severance package?
Right.
Oh.
Just like Lani severed that
You're
one
really
girl's
stuck
face.
on that.
Yeah, because
She didn't sever the whole face.
you're going through this book, man, and Lonnie's jumping off stuff and doing cool stuff and disobeying her parents, and then she cuts somebody.
Like, straight up, like, Dwight in the office with the CPR dummy.
Wow, no. That did not happen.
And then
It
she
was
wore
one
that
cut.
dummy's face to disguise herself as a
And that's
goblin.
how she got out. Yeah.
She's
They were
wearing
like, God, Isabel, you got ugly. Oh, man.
That's messed up.
Yeah, and if you would be so kind, like, rate, review, subscribe, all of those things
Yes.
on, whatever platform you listen to the podcast on. It would be great because it gets us, up in the world and lets people know that we're here.
Spread the word.
We're doing it.
Word of mouth is super powerful.
And we're still looking for your suggestions and ideas on how Jork broke his spine.
His head spine.
His head spine, yeah. Not his
his
backbone.
not like
spine.
Bane came in and busted his back, but
Crack-a-lacka like a lobster.
Whoa.
Yikes.
when you cook orcs, though, you do have to boil them live. Otherwise,
Right, yeah.
They're just too tough that way.
Yeah.
Tough and stringy.
Yep.
Not a lot of fat on them.
Shocking.
Which is surprising. Yeah.
They come from the void. There's not fat there.
right.
Just how it is, The realm of darkness. There's no
That
fat.
makes sense. Low-fat foods then come from the void.
Well, I mean, there's no flavor, so.
Right. Just salt. That's all they have in the void.
Salt.
Very high in sodium, the void.
Salt plains everywhere. I like it. So otherwise, next up is chapter 6 called Sparring.
Yeah.
Another thing we can have predictions about. What does that title mean? Who's sparring? What are we sparing?
Obviously, Lani rides Brutus around like a horse and has spars on her boots to make him go faster. It's called sparring when she wants him to speed up.
I mean, that makes sense. Other than that, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Stay classy. I'm sticking with that one for now.